The thing about lengthy wars of attrition, over time onlookers from outside can lose focus. But then another image emerges that forces the lens back into high definition. A father kneeling beside his 13-year-old son's body yesterday, reading from the Bible and Psalm 90. A missile landed close to the bus stop where the child was standing in the suburbs of Ukraine's second city, Kharkiv. 3 people died. The man's daughter, who is 15, was badly injured but survived. It took about 2 hours before police could convince him to let the body go. So paperwork done on the spot, a bloodied birth certificate, then away. The front line in this war stretches from Kharkiv in the northeast to Mykolaiv in the southwest. This morning, 2 missiles hit what the Ukrainians said was a humanitarian aid depot in that city. Yesterday, the Russian foreign minister indicated that Russia's ambitions extended far beyond just taking the Donbass in the east, the stated aim in April, and now included taking more territory in the south as well.
Так, если более-менее. Сейчас география другая. Это далеко не только ДНР, ЛНР, это еще и Херсонская область, Запорожская область и ряд других территорий. И этот процесс продолжается, причем продолжается последовательно и настойчиво.
But if this war has taught us anything, it's that Moscow's ambitions and what they can actually achieve militarily are worlds apart. A point made by the US's top general today, who said Russia was advancing at just a kilometre a day in the Donbass.
The Ukrainians are making the Russians pay for every inch of territory that they gain. And advances are measured in literally hundreds of meters. Some days you might get a kilometre or 2 out of the Russians, but not much more than that. So high cost, battle of attrition, grinding, not lost yet in the Donbass, and the Ukrainians intend to continue the fight.
The head of MI6 said today he believes Russia is about to run out of steam in Ukraine.
Our assessment is that the Russians will increasingly find it difficult to supply manpower, material over the next few weeks. They will have to pause in some way.
If that assessment is correct, it could open the door for a more focused counteroffensive in the south around the city of occupied Kherson. The Ukrainians have been concentrating firepower on key infrastructure there, like this bridge over the Dnipro River into the city. There is another front line, though, the one where energy and food are the weapons. Today, the Russians turned back on the Nord Stream 1 gas pipeline, but at reduced capacity. The European Commission is urging countries to cut gas use by 15% over the next 7 months. But on food, a possible breakthrough. It's being reported in the last hour that Ukraine and Russia will sign a deal in Turkey tomorrow, which could free up blockaded grain stuck in ports like Odessa. Ukraine's second city, Kharkiv, was actually hit more than once in the last 24 hours. Adjust the lens again and zoom in to the Baraboshova market. Where this time it's a woman, Sabina Pogrelets, who can't bear to leave the body of her husband, Artem, killed in the shelling.
Warwick O'Brien reporting there. Well, as Russia toys with Europe over gas supplies, the last thing the EU wants at this time is instability within its own ranks. Unfortunately, that is exactly what has happened with the resignation of the Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi. Seen as a solid, reliable figure within the EU, he offered his resignation after members of his wide-ranging coalition government walked out ahead of a vote of confidence in his leadership. Italy will now have new elections on the 25th of September. Well, earlier I spoke to political scientist Ian Bremmer, who is the president of the Eurasia Risk Consultancy Group. I began by asking him how significant Mr. Draghi's resignation was at this difficult time for Europe.
Italy has not had a run of well-functioning governments. Super Mario, as we call him, has by far the most credibility to govern both inside Italy, but also across the European continent and globally. This is a time that we really need Italy to have strong leadership. in part because of the major economic challenges that we are presently facing with inflation and potentially tipping into recession. And also, of course, given the war against Russia over Ukraine, but extending to the European continent, especially when we talk about energy flows. And Italy, by the way, is the single economy that's likely to hit worst, about 6% GDP contraction if Russian gas is cut off this winter, as frankly, we increasingly expect it will be. So this is not the time that the Italians should be playing politics with their PM. Unfortunately, that's exactly what's happened.
Well, I'll come back to the gas situation in a moment, but is there a real risk now that Italy could end up having a far-right government, a government much more sympathetic to Russia?
It is possible, but it would still be in a large coalition. And of course, what that means is they won't be governing by themselves. Governing very ineffectively is very different from pulling out of the EU coalition. I would not expect the latter to occur. I think this has much more to do with issues of a financial crisis for Italy, serious market volatility when we're facing recession.
Well, let's come back to the situation with gas and Europe's relationship with Russia. The European Commission wanted to cut gas usage by 15%. That seems to be falling apart. What are the implications there?
Well, we know that the Europeans are mostly very dependent on Russian energy. France is the major exception because of their nuclear power, though much of it is offline right now. And the Russians have already started playing games with how much energy they are prepared to deliver, claiming technical reasons why they're not at 100%. But we know that's not true. And because the Russians full well understand that the Europeans are attempting to diversify away from Russian energy as soon as humanly possible, it's hard to imagine that President Putin is simply going to sit by and wait for the Europeans to do that. He's going to use that leverage himself. And the best time for him to do that from his perspective, in terms of getting European citizens angry with their present policies and more sympathetic towards the Russian position, would be as winter is approaching. So that's the big concern here.
But Russia's completely got Europe over a barrel on this, haven't they?
I wouldn't say completely, no, of course, because the fact is that the Russian economy is going to contract by 10 to 15% this year. Long term, the Russians are in very serious trouble. Their manufacturing sector is imploding. There's a huge brain drain. 300,000 Russians with skills have already left the country. Hard to see them coming back. So if anyone's being punished here, I want to be very clear, it's Russia. But for this winter, there is a proximate, very real economic challenge that the Europeans are all going to be facing, and they're going to be facing it together.
Ian Bremmer, thanks very much.
My pleasure.